Okay, we're ready to go there, Nicole.
Okay, we can go ahead and start the meeting then. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting for today. So we'll call the meeting to order. And then first on the list is approval of the agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to add to the agenda for today?
I would like, it's Linda.
Yep.
I would like to add some comments on some sidewalks.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else anyone wants to add? Sorry, Tom?
You want to just deal with that under accessibility concerns from the public, and then we don't have to amend the agenda?
Okay, yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, would anyone like to move to go ahead and approve the agenda for today?
I can.
Okay, Colleen, and I see Sandy's hand up as a seconder, so all in favor of that? And so we'll carry and approve the agenda that way. Any declarations of pecuniary interests or general nature thereof for today? Okay. And then next is approval of the minutes from our October 8th Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting that were attached with your agenda package.
Since they went live stream, they put this block in here. I can't see it.
Is there anything in the
leave it
minutes that needs to be adjusted or changed?
Oh. I'll move for adoption.
Okay, Paul, thank you. A seconder for that. Sandy's hand was up first. All in favor to approve the minutes sent from our last meeting? Alrighty, that's carried. And I don't believe we have any delegations today. So first up is business 6.1, accessibility review and guidelines for new developments. So I'll let Tom speak to that one.
So let me just pull up my notes here. Just give me 1 second. So I think we discussed this, that we were going to try to move forward with this in 2022 to get a system for so that projects come before the AAC before you know, at an appropriate time, basically. So I've begun developing a framework for facility and new development reviews. So the director of planning has provided a direction to his staff to circulate site plan control applications and design drawings for subdivisions and condos so that the AAC can comment. So they'd be distributed to the clerk's department, basically, and then we would bring those forward to committee meetings and have Paul, the director of planning, attend so that he can kind of speak to different elements and then receive your feedback right off the bat. So that's a good thing. You know, it's basically, that's sort of like a done deal. Like it's just a matter of, you know, making sure everyone was in the know in their department so that that process can work properly. But on the same note, so we reviewed our existing design guidelines. They're from 2018, and all accessibility design standards are referenced as to the County of Northumberland's facility accessibility design standards, FADs for short. But then in discussion with the county accessibility staff rep, they let me know that the standards are actually out of date, having been created 10 years before the design of public spaces standard was developed. So not that helpful to reference in our document or anyone's document. I should also note that all municipalities within the county basically use the same language to reference to these county documents. And but the good news is the county staff member actually provided references to, I guess a lot of municipalities are using Mississauga's design standards, which are more up to date, they're in line with the legislation. And also Ottawa and Oakville apparently have really good reference points as well. So the next step from here for us, we would need to basically develop new standards that we can reference in our guideline. So I think we could do that based on the Mississauga, Ottawa, and Oakville standards, and we'll just work those into some sort of Brighton focused document, basically. But on the same note, we also would need to amend our guidelines to identify the updated standards. So there's kind of like a two-step process there. I think a recommendation from this committee to amend our guidelines would be in order. And I think that could be made at this meeting. And then during the time between now and when these minutes are approved, and then when this comes forward to council, hopefully we can have some sort of a draft document for the standards. So please let me know if there's any questions. I know I just kind of gave you a whole bunch of info there, but just if there's any questions on any of this, let me know.
Do we have to know, like, be able to read what their standards are to consider uplifting our standards?
Yeah, I mean, that I think I get what you're saying here. So it's like it's like the chicken before the egg kind of thing, like which one to go first, right? And it's a good point. I think that's kind of like why I wanted to really bring this up with you guys too, to get your advice on it, because right now, like I said, we're referencing standards that aren't even in use anymore. So I feel like it would be a good thing to kind of nip that in the bud. But then you're right. Then what are we going to reference for the standards? So, and that's why I was thinking, even if we did make this, if the committee wanted to make that recommendation to amend our guidelines, it's basically going to be probably 2 months before this really comes to council, because December, whether or not there's a meeting, and then these minutes get approved, and then it goes before council in like January, probably, right? So there's time to get some sort of a draft document of those standards, probably before this committee, before then as well.
So
yeah,
Tom,
Yep.
What I'm wondering then is it within the committee's purview then to review best practices from those cities that have the best practices that are being used for standards, and then at the time, then we can ask council to amend our Brighton standards to match what we have found to be best practices. Is that within our purview to do that?
Absolutely. So you guys.
So the mere suggestion that we just say, okay, council, go ahead and amend our standards. Well, we don't have anything to amend it to. So we should then, this committee then should review best practices at, from wherever, and then come up with a standard that we think would be good for Brighton, and then ask them to amend it according to that.
Okay, so maybe what we could do for a motion at this meeting would be something to the nature of that the committee request, or or maybe just that the committee review the standards of the best practices of standards of other Ontario municipalities
Yes.
to develop a Brighton standard.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I like the idea of it being even in December's meeting plan, so then we can review them in December, whether it's Paul bringing them forward, not you, Paul, the manager of planning, Paul. That's his name, right, Paul? Whether he brings them forward so we can review and then do a motion in December for which one to approve, so then it can get to council. I sort of agree with Paul that way. Like, we can do a motion to say we're going to amend it, but then we still going to need an emotion in a month or two to say, okay, we want to amend it to this one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let's do the legwork first, so that council can be the best informed when they're, they have to decide.
So do we think, Tom, that we actually need a motion to say we're going to look at it to decide which one? Or do we just put it on our agenda for next meeting and then do a motion?
Yeah, I think what we do is, like, for the motion for today could just be that we review, or that the committee reviews the standards and best practices from other municipalities. And then the ones that I referenced, obviously in Mississauga, Ottawa, and Oakville, we could just add those to the agenda for review at the next meeting.
Mhm.
And then just actually nip that right in the bud at the next meeting, hopefully.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, Nicole, I would make that motion if you want.
I just want to make sure everyone else on the committee is okay with that plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is everybody all right? Okay, go ahead.
Sure my
Yeah,
words
so
are right here. Accessibility design.
making sure you got your wording before we carry on.
Yeah. So, you guys tell me if you want any changes on this, that the committee review the accessibility design standards and best practices from other Ontario municipalities to develop a new Brighton accessibility design standard.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, and
So we'll
Paul,
put that motion forward by Paul and I can second it. And then everyone in favor? All right, so carried.
awesome.
Nicole,
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
would we need a separate meeting just to review those standards? Because they're going to be quite lengthy, I would think.
We could circulate them ahead of the meeting.
Yeah.
So that everyone can review them and then hopefully make notes maybe and bring them forward to the meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think I like that idea versus having
Maybe,
a separate
Yeah, because
meeting.
it might be a big chunk of time
Mhm.
that you
Yeah,
might
if you're
have to
sitting there
devote to that.
reviewing them at the time.
Yeah.
And can I just ask that you also put in what our current standards are, like in that email with the other ones to look at, or the links for the other standards to look at? Can you put our own standards in there so we know what the baseline of what we were looking at? Or is it just a line that says Northumberland of county standards?
And that's the problem. So like they're called engineering design guidelines. So that's the document that would need amendment to reference an appropriate accessibility design standard. Right. So it's kind of like two parts there. So yeah, and it's just anytime accessibility is referenced in our engineering design guidelines, it just says County of Northumberland's accessibility design standards. So it's basically all of those lines would need to be amended in the and then we just need the appropriate standard to go with it, which could be an attachment to that guideline.
Okay. So that'll be our plan for December. Is there anything else on that topic, Tom, or was that most of it for
No, that was all from that I had. Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. Then we'll move on to reports. The first one is 7.1, and that's municipal update. So I'll leave that one back to Tom again.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a lengthy one. I got a bunch of items for you guys to talk about. So just give me a second. Okay, so first one is about the lobby washroom at 35 Alice Street. So we did have a staff member investigate the issue in the washroom, and Heather Ratz actually got back to me that she was happy to report that the remote for the lobby bathroom table does in fact work. It just requires a final push to make sure it is plugged in correctly, I guess.
Okay.
But she also did notice that there isn't anything to let people know that there's a remote and where to find it. So she was recommending maybe like some sort of maybe a sign that says to find library staff or assistants or something like that.
Yeah.
So pretty straightforward. That's just kind of like an information update there. Next one is, or unless if anyone has any questions or comments, go ahead before I move on.
Are you able to follow through and make that sign?
Yeah, so well, I just basically, I thought Heather was going to be here today, and so I was going to just recommend that, you know, her and I just figure it out in the back end, right? Like, it's just making a sign to say. So yeah, we'll take care of it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the next one is accessibility compliance report. So as you guys know, we do an annual accessibility compliance report that details where we're at basically under each of the 5 accessibility standards of the AODA. So I am actually, I'm in process of working on that report. I'd say I'm about halfway through, and I'm hoping to complete it in the next couple of weeks. The only area that we will likely be reporting non-compliance is website accessibility. But that's not a concern because actually the vast majority of municipalities in Ontario are reporting non-compliance in that area. It's a giant undertaking to bring websites up to the standard that's recommended. It's called the worldwide what is it called? WCAG 2.0. Anyway, I think web content accessibility guidelines. And it because it deals with every aspect of your website and all websites, and yeah, pretty much no municipalities are in full compliance. And how it works is you report non-compliance, and then you establish a work plan with the ministry, which we actually already have an existing work plan. So it's basically just going to be an update of where we're at on that work plan, and reporting our intentions and how we're going to work towards compliance. So it's nothing to really worry about. Just wanted to let you guys know that's basically, otherwise we're in compliance as far as the report goes. Any questions on that? Okay. Next one is that well, happy to report that council supported the recommendation to implement the human captioning service for live stream meetings. That was at the October 18th meeting. moved by the committee's reps, Councillor Tabman and Bateman. And so the recommendation was obviously to support that recommendation from the committee and staff to utilize human pre-recorded captioning. And that contract we're working on right now, and it's set to start January 2022. So that'll be a great feature once we get that implemented. I think it's gonna just add that next step for how we're putting our meetings online. Any questions on that? Okay, the next one is that it's about document accessibility training. And this kind of ties in with the compliance aspect, because one of the biggest issues with website accessibility is the PDF attachments that are on websites. PDFs can be very hard to make into fully accessible documents that can be read by screen readers and all that kind of thing. We did, I think I reported maybe within the last couple of meetings that the municipality did engage a contract with a company called AbleDocs that it's a software tool that helps turn our documents into accessible documents through Microsoft Word. So what we've done is, well, I've created a document accessibility guide. It's about a 20-page document that just gives notes on each sort of key item and accessibility kind of checkpoints throughout a document. And then I'm rolling out training starting next week. We have 3 sessions. So all staff that work with public facing documents will be trained on this guide and how to make our documents accessible so they can be communicated to everyone. So that's about it on that. Any questions on that part? And then this is the last one here, and this is going to be an interesting one. It just happened about a week and a half ago. I was contacted by this company called Geomate, and basically they're a software company that using artificial intelligence mapping systems, they can identify sidewalk accessibility throughout a whole entire municipality, including like where the curb cuts are, where there's spots that are need repair, or like here's a good path of travel. And then when it just breaks it all up into is there any barriers in any path of travel along the whole entire sidewalk network of a municipality. So that was pretty neat. Had a really good meeting with them, and they gave me some documentation to go over here. So I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a second. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so as I said, they're called Geomate. So it's their slogan sort of thing here says artificial intelligence for active, safe, and inclusive cities. So they kind of give an explanation of why accessible infrastructure matters. It increases the safety, increased number of pedestrian fatalities. Well, that's not a good thing, I guess. I wonder if they meant to say decrease there.
Or it could be he's saying that there's an increase in pedestrian fatalities, so therefore
Sure.
infrastructure matters.
Sure, maybe. Yeah, okay. Giving some stats on accessibility, the dynamic nature of cities. So, dynamic transitions of active transit, pedestrians, scooters, wheelchairs, etc. Right. So it's basically just trying to be inclusive of all transportation options, so that it can be more accessible for everybody, I guess is the kind of intention there. And then leveraging artificial intelligence to provide location intelligence in active transportation. So what they do here, they have high resolution maps of roads, sidewalks, and crosswalks, maps of urban features. So that would be like, trees, shrubs, benches, traffic lights, anything like that. So it actually maps all those, identifies all the locations of all those types of things. It gives you accessibility and walkability maps. So, people could sort of log on and say, like, what's the best route for me to take to get to this location? And then safety and collision risk maps, which is obviously beneficial as well. This part, yeah, looks like just kind of a infographic kind of explaining what how their system works, using spatial analysis and HD maps. So basically converting data through various sources, from like, Google Maps, things like that, but as well as any data that municipality has existing. So for instance, we have a GIS mapping department now, and so they could provide some data, and this company would basically gather all this data together and then generate these maps that would help people navigate. This example of high resolution maps here. Don't need to go into too much detail there. This is what I was getting at about those urban features. So see how it kind of like identifies all those areas that could present potential barriers for people in the community. So it looks like we're enabling closed captioning here. If anyone wonders why that's popped up on the bottom there. This is more mapping stuff. I think you guys probably get the gist of what this company offers. Oh, this is a good one too. Gives you those scores, right? So, you could open up their application and if green is obviously good or excellent or that kind of thing, and you can kind of go on and figure out where your best spots are, where those accessible parking spaces are, and how to get from that space to the location that you want to get to, all those kind of things. Yeah, so pretty neat. I'm going to stop sharing this one. So pretty neat initiative. They're a pretty new company. It sounds like they got started in, I believe, 2018. So they're basically a startup still, but I thought a really interesting initiative that just wanted to bring to your guys' attention, and also because they're offering a free kind of introduction to this system for municipalities. They call it the ACE Challenge. So I'm going to once again share my screen, because I feel like this might be something that you could recommend to start up with. It's a free initiative, so if you guys were interested. So it's called the ACE Challenge. Let me see here. So it's a pilot program. So, and it uses the AccessMate platform, which is one of their platforms. Uses information from computer vision software, artificial intelligence, and open source geospatial data to detect sidewalk problems. So basically, it's like their, light version of the bigger package of their software, pretty much. But it can, be used by individuals with mobility concerns to identify barriers. It can help develop short-term plans for the engineering department, right? So when they can identify where those next areas that need, help prioritize the work that needs to happen, basically, in the infrastructure. And developing long-term plans in that regard, and accessibility planning, and improve sidewalk safety. That's basic information there. Yeah, so that's I guess about it on that. But I think that initiative is pretty neat, and we just wanted to get your thoughts on it. A potential motion today could be something like that. Either we invite a representation from Geomate as a delegation at a future meeting to give more information to the committee before you make a recommendation. But you could also make a recommendation now that council directs staff to apply for this ACE challenge, just as an introduction. And I would leave that to you guys to make your decision, or you could do both at the same time. So those are kind of my thoughts on it anyway, and then I'll leave it to you guys to discuss further.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Whether it's something we want to pursue or we don't want to pursue, or do we want to get more information?
I think as an old procurement guy, I think it's worth a further discussion, because there are some value package questions that I would have from these guys. I mean, it looks like the next generation of GIS. It could go, for a big city. Certainly, there's value in doing that. Not so sure yet whether there's significant value for us as a small town to do it, compared with what is it? Is it licensing, or do you buy the software outright, or do you license it according to how many users, and so on and so on. So it's a larger discussion, and certainly it might be worth having somebody, a delegation to go in a little deeper before we start recommending the council to go ahead and put something on their servers that may or may not, work well.
Sandy, you had your hand up. Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you. Sandy, we still can't hear you. You're muted. Oh, Tom, you're muted too.
Sorry. Did you get a pop-up on your screen, Sandy, when I send this ask to unmute thing? No.
Do you want to type in an answer or what your thoughts were into the chat?
The chat's been disabled, actually. Oh. So I can't enable it right now.
Okay.
But we could just receive comments over email after the meeting too.
Mhm.
To what Tom said about being more important for a big city than maybe Brighton, it still would be interesting to see
Oh,
or to
yeah,
hear from
certainly.
them, what they would feel is important for us. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
most certainly.
Downsize from city to a town, and if it's going to be, they probably have some insight that we might not think of sometimes for our town. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think my thought goes to, is this more a decision on our end, or is it more of a motion for staff to look into it, whether it's something that staff would like to pursue? Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's worthwhile for us to get all the information or whether it's more worthwhile for it to go to staff to see whether it's something that would be beneficial or not, and then come back with a recommendation. Go ahead, Tom.
Personally, I feel it would be helpful to have a recommendation from this committee on like, so that it's, it shows that it's been reviewed by the committee, that and that this is something that they think staff should look into.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good too. Yes, certainly.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I don't think I'm comfortable to say, yes, we need to go to Geomate to try to do this free trial. I love the concept of it. I think it's a great idea. I'd like to have more information as to whether it would benefit a small community. I know we've got a great sidewalk plan already that's already mapped out. So is it worth the time and effort when we already have a plan? And maybe that's something in a few years, whenever the plan is near the end. Yeah.
Would you guys want to maybe make a motion to just request a delegation from the company at a future meeting?
Yeah. And
Yes.
would we then be able to have any of the managers there as well to hear it, to get that perspective? Or is that going around in circles around council?
No, I think that would be fine. You could request a delegation from Geomate and with attendance from members of the infrastructure team or something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think I'd be comfortable with doing it that way. How does everybody else feel?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to have the infrastructure involved. Yeah, yes.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and put that motion forward then. I feel comfortable with that we asked Geomate to come and do as a delegation for a presentation about their ACE challenge. And can I also then put in there about inviting, or will we just do that on our own, about inviting staff?
I think we should include it. Yeah, just
okay.
like I've got that the committee request a delegation from Geomate regarding the ACE challenge and with attendance from the infrastructure department at a future meeting.
Okay, yep, that's good. So I'll put that in as a motion. Is there anyone to second that?
I'll second it.
I saw Linda's hand first, and all in favor? Okay, all right, so that's carried.
Awesome, thanks guys.
Okay, and I have to say, Tom, thank you for all of your hard work on all of those things. It's so nice to know that there's someone in the background doing all of the accessibility things for the municipality. Yeah, I think you're doing awesome.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Next thing on the agenda is library update, but Heather is not here. Did she give you a paper update or anything, Tom? Okay. I guess we will defer that one then till when Heather's here so she can report. And then 7.3 is a year-end summary. I wanted to type up a year-end summary based on our standards and our goals that we have for our accessibility plan, just so we have something for the end of the year for sort of our accomplishments. So what I started to do is I started to type it up, but I wanted to show it all to all of you guys so you can put in your 2 cents worth if I've missed something or need to change something. And then we can finalize it in December at our meeting in December. Okay, so I will share my screen. And I will share that one. Okay. I'm just making sure. The only thing is, Tom, I can't seem to move the screen at all. Oh, wait, here it is. There we go. I was rushing it. Okay, can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So what I've done, anything in italics, so the vision, that is what's in our current plan. So our current vision is that all people in Brighton, regardless of age and abilities, have barrier-free access to full and equal participation in the community, including opportunities for work, shop, travel, and play. So then what I've done is I typed in a bit of a summary. Make it a bit smaller so we can see the full thing. So I've said the committee has met 7 times since November 2020, both in person and virtually. In February 2021, we said goodbye and a heartfelt thank you to committee member Karen Typel, who was moving out of the area. By the fall, we welcomed new members, Paul Cook to replace Karen, as well as Heather Letts, who has formally joined as a member from the Public Library. Community Awareness Project was completed in May for National Accessibility Awareness Week through a set of 5 videos highlighting the AODA standards. This was well received and the committee fully appreciated the support of Brighton Digital Archives for this initiative. And then I said, see below for further work accomplished in the past year. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add to the general summary? Okay. Mary? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
It's Heather Ratz, not Letts.
Oh, that's a good point. Like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I had Let's written down in my files. And then next is customer service. And again, this is already in our current accessibility plan under the customer service standard. So what I wrote in for 2021 summary is both council and this committee participate in an education session on dementia-friendly communities to further support barrier-free interactions with our community members. Municipal staff continue to work on barrier-free access to council meetings through closed captioning. The accessibility audit for businesses form has not yet been trialed with businesses, but will be forwarded to 2022 for completion and distribution to businesses. And I figured, Tom, you probably had some things to add to that as well for initiatives that we've done for customer service, including the website. Oops. Is there anything else under there that people can think of that we should be adding?
I needed to call the municipality about a door that was blocked by the Life Labs box. And I had a visit to the doctor's office at the Family Health Center. I'm sorry, I should have started with that.
Mhm.
So I received very quick action on I'm sorry, I've forgotten the woman's name. I'm just terrible about names lately. And she agreed with me that no doorway should be blocked by a box. And I was hoping it could be moved, but it had been secured to the ground. So I haven't been back to the health center to see if it's been removed. but there was a place that it could be moved to, still under cover of the roof of the health center, for the Life Labs to pick it up when they're not open. It was very quick action, and I appreciate her attention to my, I don't want to say demand, but that it was important for me to be able to reach the button to get into the health center, and the box was in the way. So I received very quick action on that, but still don't know if the box has been moved or not.
Mhm.
But the attendance of the municipality person was very quick, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good feedback for Tom too. Is there anything else in here, Tom, that you would like to add? Or do you want to add it afterwards and then we can approve it in December?
I think the bulk of my stuff, like all the website and that kind of thing, would probably be under the information and communication area.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, I'll think about where some of those, where it would fall basically, and maybe just
Okay.
add to it.
Yep. Okay. The next section is information and communication, which is all about accessible internet, signs, signage, applications, and then as well preparation and implementation process for accommodations for next municipal election. I don't think we've actually talked specifically about that yet in our meetings, but that's probably into next year. So I left it blank for now, but I think between Tom and I, we can help fill that section in. And then the next one is employment. I didn't put a summary in there because we don't tend to be actively involved in employment. So I didn't put a summary in there from our end, but I do know that there are municipal guidelines for accessibility of interviews as well as employee accommodations. Under accessible transportation, I have community continues to liaise with Quinte Transit, which is formerly Quinte Access, to support accessible transportation in our community. I wasn't sure if I'd missed out on anything we've talked about this year with respect to transportation. Or is that good as it is? I'm looking at Mary to see if she has any other thing to note on there.
No, I think you've covered it there, and certainly we do, as a council, support Quinte, as it's called, Quinte Transit financially, and encourage, keep encouraging people to use it. I think the more people realize the service is there, the more people are using it. So it's a hard sell sometimes, because people, when they need something like this, they don't know where to go, but I don't know how we can help them in that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know in previous years, we've done some more advertising for them out of our budget, right? And that could be something we can discuss in the new year, whether we want to put in some ads in the paper about the transit or not. Again, yeah, how much of it is our role when we're paying them to provide that service, right?
Right.
Okay, I can leave it like that for our summary.
Sure.
And then the final one is accessible public spaces, which what I've written in is that Director of Parks and Recreation has come to committee a number of times for accessibility of trails and in the new pickleball court. A formal sidewalk repair and replacement plan was brought to the committee by Public Works that covers 2020 to 2023. It is really encouraging to see progress on sidewalk repairs, such as the traffic light pedestrian crossing button at No Frills is now fully accessible. I don't know if people have seen that. I drove by that. I'm like, wait a second. People can actually hit the button to cross the light, which is amazing. So again, I was happy to finally see that, because I think it's been years since that has been on our list to be done. So I said, we appreciate the planning and completion of sidewalk initiatives in the municipality of Brighton.
Good.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to add to that section that we've talked about over the past year or completed? Okay. All right. I will stop sharing. Yeah, so what I can do is I'll send that to Tom. And then Tom, if there's things you want to add to it, and then we can formally approve it and send it to council in our December meeting as a summary for our committee for this year. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add to that or thinks that's missing, or is it all good?
It's good.
All right. Okay.
I have one thing to mention. I still go downtown, and in front of Lola's, people are parking there where it's got the zigzag yellow. It's not even a parking spot, but people tend to park there.
Do we
So when
want
you're
to add that to accessibility concerns from the public, like in the next section?
Sorry, yes, we could do that.
Okay. All right. Well, then it's just formally in our minutes in that area, and then yeah, Tom could forward on that. Okay. All right, so yeah, we'll move on to the accessibility concerns from the public. So Colleen, in front of Lola's, the hashed area, right?
Yes, it's just that when you come out of the side street there beside the beer store, you can't see to drive.
Mhm.
People are
It's a
still-
scary spot.
It is. Like, I don't know what Lola's or the town could do. I have no idea.
Okay.
I just think it is a scary spot where you can't see.
Is that something you can bring forward to Public Works, Tom?
So I just want to understand, again, I apologize, I don't know particulars in the area so much. Like, I know where Lola's is, obviously, but is this a no parking zone, or is it?
Yes,
Oh, so people are parking in a no parking zone, basically.
yes. I understand. I guess it's probably because they need another accessibility spot there, maybe, or they just like to park right there, or figure they could park there, but it's all like yellow hashtags there where nobody should be parking there at all. I don't know if you could put like, I don't know, like pylons there. Do people get
Install, yeah, install
Used to
bollards
it?
against the side, against the curb.
Well, it's a no parking zone because of the road, so you
Yeah.
can see to turn there. So if there's no parking, do we have no parking sign there? Or do we have to just start giving tickets, have the person who gives tickets for parking in non-parking areas give tickets there so they learn that that's not where they can park? You
Mary?
know, the
I
the
think
fellow
this is
that goes around
bylaw.
and tells people they can't do stuff. And I don't know his name at all. I forgot.
Alan
his-
McGee.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
But,
a bylaw.
you know, until
officer's
they know that
duty.
it's
Yes.
non-parking, they're going to continue to park it there. Sorry, Mary, I interrupted.
That's okay. No, what I was trying to say, it's the bylaw officer's issue. So if I think it's not something that we don't manage bylaws. So I think it's something, if Tom just mentions it to the bylaw officer, that it is a concern, that it certainly makes it very like because there's no parking there, it's not even a place where it's accessible to those who have to pull right up to the door. So I don't know. That's an engineering problem that's far beyond our scope of what we do.
But I like the idea of passing it on to the bylaw control officer if Tom's able to do that. Because yeah, it's like a whole safety issue versus just accessibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave that to Tom to let him know about that. I had put in for accessibility concerns about parade accessibility. And just because of, I know I sometimes look at that the Brighton Facebook group, just for accessibility things, if anything comes through it. And it was mentioned about the parade and that it's a drive-through parade. And someone said, well, what if you have accessibility concerns and you can't drive around? How are you supposed to be able to see the parade? And my thought, number one, is the parade is next Friday. It's in a week. So it's a little short notice to really be able to arrange anything. It would have been nice to maybe even have Quinte Transit have a bus, pick up people and do a route around. But I don't know if it's too late because it's only a week away. So we can't advertise for that. I know Mary's got her hand up.
I know that Councillor Bateman had asked me if Quinte Transit would be willing to do something like that. So I think we need to probably see what the response was from Quinte Transit, because certainly they do this kind of thing. I mean, they go around and take all kinds of different trips for people just to see the colors in the fall, Christmas decorations, whatever. So it wouldn't be a problem, but the scheduling would be the problem. So like you say, with short notice, I don't know how far Councillor Bateman got with that. And I know that he had back surgery yesterday, not surgery, procedure. So I know he's not feeling well. So I don't know, maybe if you just sent him an email, he could, because that's the group he works with too. So it would be their group that should be, looking into transportation in such a case. But I'm on Quinte Transit, and I know that they do many, many different types of specialized runs for other parades in other areas too. And we have had them here so that people can be brought to and taken back to their residence after. So.
Yeah, it's just something in my brain. I thought to myself, oh, maybe, it's in August. We need to do a regular email out to, the events committee, just to sort of talking about accessibility of the parade. Yeah, because I know when I saw that, I'm like, it's only a few weeks away. I don't think there's anything we can arrange between now and then, but at least it's good to know that Mark's on that committee. So he automatically has that brain thinking about accessibility of the parade as well. But I'll send Mark an email.
Okay. Yeah, I would think that would be the best way. And he may have already, because I said to him, you need to talk to the CAO to see, it's about would they have sufficient drivers so that they could take a driver from somewhere else to do that particular parade.
Well, that's the one. The other issue is getting the people too, right? Anyone who's interested and would like a drive-through because they're unable to drive through themselves. But it would be advertising for that and getting the names, and
that's
I think
so,
the timeline's a little too short.
Yeah, for this year.
Yeah. But I'll follow up with Mark and I'll send an email about it to everyone afterwards.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments on that one? Okay. And then sidewalks. You had mentioned, Linda, that you have some sidewalk comments.
Okay, so it's been mentioned about that corner at No Frills, coming out of No Frills, that the corner has been finally sidewalked, if you want to say it that way. I was so pleased. I was up there about a week and a half ago, and I'd always been able to cross safely from the north to the south. But now that sidewalk's there, I can cross safely from the south to the north. And it was very well done. And I think this company that's doing that for us is just great, because it's such a smooth from the road to the sidewalk, from the sidewalk to the road. It's such a smooth, no bumpiness or anything. They do such a great job. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. The other sidewalks is right now they're lifting up all the metal covers on the water to get off the streets. They put in pipes and filled around the pipes with earth. And now I'm wondering what they're putting over the earth on the sidewalks to, you can go across the sidewalks on the earth, But I mean, the earth won't stay there with rain and all that. It'll be washed away. Are they re-putting down the metal covers on the sidewalks? Are they doing something with them to re-put them on the sidewalks? I don't know that.
Is that on Harbor Street, Linda?
No, this is on Elizabeth Street, which is a main street. So they just started that last week. And I could go over, like I say, the earth, but I'm wondering what covering they're going to be putting on there.
Mary, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, it might have, I don't know if Tom knows anymore because I haven't talked to staff about this, but I have had people ask me why they've removed them. But one of our own members, Councillor Bateman, was walking on Cedar Street. And because they didn't have the actual grid across there that stops you from slipping, he slipped and fell and hurt his back.
Oh, gosh.
So that may be, but I don't know, Tom, to what extent what they're doing there. But I do understand that Councillor Bateman talked to our Director of Public Works that there has to be some kind of a grid that goes over each one of those grates, because the whole idea of them being there is to drain. So I can't imagine that they're going to leave them like that, because as we know, soily roads, and the next thing you know, we're just going to have sidewalks like this everywhere where the drainage is supposed to go. So I think there must be a purpose, and maybe it's to get those grates over each one of those areas so that nobody slips again and it's safe. Hopefully that's all it is.
And one more thing about crossing at Pinnacle South and Elizabeth Street. The button is usable there to cross from the south to the north, but it's still all taped together. And I believe it's been pretty close to a year that's been taped together. And when the gentleman was with us to talk about that, he said it was in his work list or work to have that changed. But it's been quite a while, I think, that tape, and it's not a very, not that I worry so much about what people think about, but it's temporary. It needs to be fixed properly. That area, that button there. So it'll stand up for use from now to whenever. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Linda. Mary?
And once again, maybe just a gentle reminder, because I know that I think it was Preston that you brought it up with before, the Director of Public Works. It's a gentle reminder, maybe that Tom, you could remind him that needs to be fully repaired. And yeah, I do a lot of my repairs with duct tape, but I don't think professionally we should do that in the public.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has any accessibility concerns that they've heard about from the public?
No.
Okay. All righty. I don't believe there's any correspondence. So then the next part is just our next meeting date, which the second Friday is December 10th. Is everyone free for December 10th at 10 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, we'll put that down as our next meeting date. Would anyone like to motion to adjourn?
Love to.
Mary, and a
I'll
seconder?
second it.
Linda, you were quick in there for that one. And all in favor for adjourning? Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks
All right.
very much.
Ciao.